In this lecture, we'll talk about the different groups of gibbons and their calling behavior. What you learn here may have consequences on how you collect your field data and what exactly you define as your detection unit. I would like to thank Professor Warren Brockelman from the National Biobank of Thailand, who kindly provided a summary of this complex topic, which is summarized in this lecture. The gibbon family is divided into 4 existing genera, and there were 3 genera which are already extinct. All species of gibbon sing songs or give loud calls whose major functions are to signal occupancy or the territory of the group to potential intruders and to promote bonding of the dominant breeding pair. Gibbons are mostly monogamous breeders in relatively small groups, less than 10 individuals, and usually averaging about 3 to 4 individuals per group. The songs of gibbons are mostly duets, sung by the dominant breeding pair, which can generally be heard clearly over a distance of 1 or 2 kilometers under favorable conditions. These duets allow the survey of the number of breeding groups by acoustic means, without having to obtain visual sightings. This is very beneficial as these animals are shy and live in dense evergreen forests, often with rugged terrain. In this lecture, we'll look at the components and structure of the duets sung by the species of the Helobatis and Nomascus species in detail, and then we'll talk briefly about the duets of the other 2 genera. Let's start with the duets, with what these duets look like in more detail for Helobatis and Nomascus, using the example of the yellow-cheeked gibbon. This shows an example of what these calls may look like. The example is an excerpt from a yellow-cheeked gibbon duet. It shows how different male and female calls look and sound like, and that they're generally readily distinguishable. The first, second, and fourth are the frequency modulated calls of the adult male, also called codas. The third shows a great call of the female, which is composed of a series of loud hoots in a highly stereotyped pattern. The fourth call is a response of the male to the great call of the female. What follows here is a schematic example of how the duet might unfold. The adult female of the group gives her great call, that is a series of loud hoots of which we saw an example in the previous slide. The male then follows with a distinct response, often referred to as coda. I've drawn 2 here, but the number of codas can vary. This is what we refer to as a great call coda sequence. This great call coda sequence is repeated at intervals of 1 to 2 minutes during the singing bout. Males will often fill in the intervals between duetted phrases with additional hooting, which usually resembles the hoot series given during their solos, which may be given in at an earlier hour in the morning. Again, the number of hoots varies. This sequence of great call coda sequences interspersed with hooting might go on for several minutes, which is called a bout. These bouts usually take between 5 to 15 minutes, but they may last as long or more than 30 minutes. The great calls are particularly suited for recognition of breeding females because they are extremely stereotyped, being basically rigid, fixed action patterns whose structure is inherited, not learned. Although a female may occasionally abort her great call, the pattern of her completed call is never varied or detectably influenced by environmental or even social conditions. Some or all species of Namascus have been found to be polygamous, having 2 or 3 breeding females in the group, each contributing to the singing. Nevertheless, one female is dominant over the others and usually sings the leading role in the duet. The 3 described species of the genus Hulok, occupying Myanmar, in northeast India, Bangladesh, and a small part of southwest China, are closely related and apparently do not have distinguishable species-specific vocal patterns. So in the duets of the Hulok species, there is no clear female hoot series that qualifies as a great call. Males and females give a continuous series of rather non-musical bark-like hoots and screeches or piping notes with occasional pauses during their duet. The organization of the Hulok duet has never been analyzed in much detail. The phrases of 2 sexes have been said to be indistinguishable, but in Warren's opinion, it is mainly the male that gives the high-pitched screeches. Nevertheless, the duet of Huloks is a loud and clear pattern of behavior that doubtlessly serves the same function as the duets of other species, although it appears to have more primitive pattern of organization. The remaining monotypic genus contains only the Symphalangus syndactylus, the siamang, which has the largest body size of all the gibbons. The siamang has some ecological and behavioral patterns that distinguish it from the smaller gibbon species, but it also lives in small territorial groups which give regular duets. Siamang duets are incredibly energetic and raucous and consist of sex-specific screams, booms, and barks. The female's main role is giving a series of deep booming and barking sounds that lack the beautiful tonal qualities of the great calls of the Helobatis species, but which still might qualify as a form of great call. We'll see in the following chapter, defining the detection units, how understanding the song structure is important for selecting the detection unit for acoustic surveys.